Hello, hi guys. Welcome back to this new video. What happens if we have a failure in your production or your production goes down? What will you do? What will you do if you have two OpenShift cluster or three OpenShift cluster in your environment, in your company? So in this video, I will show you how to implement an enterprise-grade disaster recovery by using the Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, which will be based on the OpenShift cluster 4.19. Okay, it will be this version that I will use in my demo. And during this demo, I will show you an application, WordPress application deployed on one site, and with the mechanism of the automatical switch from the production environment to a DR environment. I will show you how to implement it with the ACM. It will be a very interesting moment during this video. I hope that you will be very amazed or very interesting, or it can give you much more insight regarding this new feature that OpenShift is not very new, but because since 3 or 4 years now, it is a capability which is available right now. So we can have it. So let's deep dive in the architecture. In this architecture that you can see in the screen, we have two OpenShift cluster. Okay, a production cluster, and we have a DR cluster or production or pre-production or in something like that. We can deploy on different sites. This architecture is the ideal architecture that can have if we have 2 or 3 or 4 OpenShift cluster that you will have to implementing a DR mechanism. Okay, so in this production cluster, I have 3 control plane nodes. Okay, the control plane node have 3 nodes. Okay, and for the worker nodes or compute node, we have 3 nodes for the compute node, as you can see here. And for the backend storage part for this production cluster, we use the ODF, which will be based on the self-storage cluster. So this will be the ODF we will be able to give the backend storage capability to our production cluster. So based on that, we can create new storage class, and the creator be able to create over person volume in your cluster. So this is the architecture of a production cluster first. Okay, and besides that, we have a DR cluster which can have a similar architecture with control plane, and also compute node, and also the self-storage cluster also, and the ODF, which will be able to give the backend storage to your DR cluster. Okay, so now we have the both cluster, and we can implementing with self-storage cluster. We have a capability to implementing the replication scenario. Okay, so from the data part, for backend storage part, we can implement it the RBG mirroring or self-effects mirroring of your objects, also object mirroring also. Okay, about capability. So because of self-storage cluster have these possibilities to replicate data, okay, across different sites. Okay, so we can implement this scenario. But what happens for the application part? So for application part to implement the replication scenario, you should in OpenShift cluster you should have this feature which is the ACM. Okay, Advanced Cluster Management, which is a feature which permits you to monitor your application on one site and depending on your scenarios, replicate this application in the second site. Okay, you can do it through the ACM. Okay, the Red Hat ACM will permit you to administrate from one view different OpenShift cluster. So this is what we are about to do in this video. So to implement the ACM, it's relatively easy, but we should have a tiny OpenShift cluster where we will have to install the ACM components. operator or component. Okay, but if we don't need that, we can also install this ACM component inside your production cluster. It's up to you. Okay. But if this production cluster goes down immediately, you will lose your production. You will lose also the ACM code component. So this is why for the best designing, if you have the budget, you should deploy your ACM in a separate cluster. Okay, like a single node or OpenShift cluster, you can deploy only your ACM 0, and this ACM will be able to manage your remote clusters. This will be your ideal architecture scenario that you can implement in your environment. But if you don't have much more resources, you can just install this component inside your production cluster. It will work. It will be able to work, definitely. And once it's been done, you will be able to add your remote or your DR cluster inside of your hub, okay? And you'll be able to manage both clusters from this single view. And this is what we have done in our lab environment. Okay, in our lab environment, let me show you. We have installed the ACM, okay, on the production cluster. So when you see here local cluster, this is just the ACM component that has been installed. On the. Let me go on this view. Just wait a moment. Here you can see this view, all cluster. Okay, so I'm on the ACM component, the ACM hub component, which will be able to view both clusters. Okay, the local one, which is our production cluster, and the remote one, the second cluster, as you can see here. Okay, and once done that, this is the view here. Let me show you the architectures that I use for this, for one cluster, for instance. Here is and also another point, because we have different sites where we have the OpenShift cluster, okay, your user will be able to have access to your application through a virtual IPs, okay, and this virtual IP will be can be implemented on load balancer like F5 or HAProxy, okay, and this F5 should be able, of course, to see the both cluster. In order to be able to send data on one site, and if this site goes down, it will be able to route data on another site where application is up. Okay. In our current demo scenario, we will use the HAProxy, okay, instead of F5. But I just let it you to have, because F5 is a component which is widely deployed on the enterprise. Okay. So once done that, after this I showed to you, let me concentrate on only one cluster. This one, for instance. Let me go in detail on the architecture of this one, for instance. Okay. Here is the detail of this architecture of one site architecture. We have the master's node. Okay, we have the control plane have 3 nodes, and the compute node have 2 nodes, for instance. Okay, and in my lab environment, I didn't install I don't use the self storage. I've used the LVM, okay, operator. Okay, so that means that I have add local drives on each compute node or worker node, and those drives have been managed by the LVM operator. Okay, so by this way, I'm will be able to create a new storage class and give volumes to my different container. Okay. Great. So here is the architecture, and if you are interested to see how I'm able to deploy this architecture or this cluster, it is very easy. I've wrote an ebook. Okay, we can go. This ebook, for instance, give you all the detail and components that we need, the step-by-step action that we need to be able to deploy your OpenShift cluster by using the API scenario. But it's not only OpenShift, Okay, we can deploy OpenShift with this one. We can deploy also self-storage cluster. Okay, so because this book gives you the possibility to deploy also the self-storage cluster, okay, in your environment. Okay, we can be also able to deploy the RUSO, the OpenStack also if you need. So we have three options, okay, three possibilities that we can have with this book. All those ones are embedded on only one book. Okay, so if you are interested, you can just go on this site. Let me just go here, show you. We can go on these sites and purchase your book. Okay, it's very interesting, and you can have, and also we have a last version OpenShift that we use for this deployment in this book. Okay, so let's go back to our subject. Okay, so here, to coming back in our to our ACM, okay, I have deployed one application, WordPress application here in this cluster. I have deployed it with the ACM, okay, policies, okay. I have deployed it with it at the moment, and let me show you how it's look like. Here we have here is how this WordPress application looks like, okay. And I'm joining it through the HAProxy. As I've told you, here we can implement your HAProxy, and the virtual IP of your HAProxy can be used by the end user, and you know to have access to your application. This is what I've done here. Okay, so you can see the HAProxy here, but natively here is the real, okay, the backend link of the application accessor. If I would like to have access directly on based on the route, okay, of the exposed router from the OpenShift cluster on the site one. Okay, here's the real backend link. Okay, but in my case, I will use because the end user don't have to see directly this link. Okay, I can give to the end user this link to have access to my application. Okay, so in this way, if this site goes down, okay, in this way, if this site goes down, automatically the load balancer will be able to switch flow to this one. Okay, let me show you how the statistics, okay, of this HAProxy. See here. You can see here we have a WordPress productions, which is green, okay, and this and the WordPress DR, okay. Here is it. So right now the flow is centered to this one because the application is up there at the moment. Okay, it is active and standby architecture implemented in the load balancer side. So let's say that I would like to test, okay, the failure, and I want to see if everything works very well. Let me go back to the okay. I will now connect to this. I will connect to this node, to this provisioner node. Okay. But before doing that, I will take time here, but anyway. Here is my both clusters. I have the cluster one on my KVM environment, and the second cluster here, okay? You have a second cluster, and now you have a first cluster here. So all of this, how I've installed it is detailed in the book, okay? Just take the book and we have all information to see how to deploy this kind of infrastructure in your KVM environment. But even in the physical environment also, you can follow this book or to see how you can deploy your OpenShift cluster. Because with our customers, when I have to implement a new cluster for our customer, East Intelligence, I just take my book and I adapt a configuration for this new cluster. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So this book is just, I can't say Bible, but it is just we can have everything that we need to deploy your OpenShift cluster. Everything is in this book. And the heart of this deployment is the provisioner node. If you master the configuration of this provisioner node, you'll be able to deploy any kind of OpenShift cluster in your environment. And we can also have information to deploy also Rosso cluster. We can have at this moment I'm doing this video, there is no open books about how to deploy Rosso step by step. It is only this book we're talking about. But anyway, let's come back to our scenario. Okay, so I will connect to this provisioner node at the moment. Oops, sorry. So now I'm on the provisioner node. Okay, let me just, you can view what I've done so far till now. Okay, let me just do something. Okay, so now I can see where from this only provisioner node I'm able to manage the first cluster. Okay, the first one, as you can see here. I can also be able to manage the second cluster if I would like. Okay, let me just update over. Okay, so we have the second cluster. So from this provisioner node, I'm able to manage the both cluster. Okay, so right now, I want to show you how to implement the failover scenario if an incident occurs in your environment. Let me prepare the command for you. So let me just going back to the production. Let's going back to the production. I will just show you the different policies that I've installed for I have two policies installed at the moment. This policy production is this one will be able to install application effectively in the production part. Okay. This is this policy which is enforced the installation of application on the production part. And this one, it will be this one or will be involved in the installation of the application on the DR. Okay, so this is how the ACM works. It is based on the policies. Okay, so based on the policy, you'll be able to install application on this site or another site if you like to. If you have to suppress application from one site, it will be based on the policies. Okay. So let me just going back here on the, yeah, as you can see here, I can see from the governance, I can see the different, at the moment, you can see the different policies that I have right now in my environment, okay? And this policy govern the deployment of the application in the different sites at the moment, okay? So let's coming back here. You can see also the application deploy and so on. At the moment, we have only one application deploy, and it is this one. Let me go back on the productions, okay? Because it's a local cluster because I have installed the ACM hub on the production. This is why, okay? And if I switch back here, I can see the application installed. Let's go on workloads, topology. You can see that we have both WordPress application installed at the moment in my cluster. Okay, so let me, if you want to see the pods, also the pods are there, up and running. You can see you would like to see the storage also. Let me go here. Also, the different storage are created by the applications because we have a front-end application and the back-end application. But okay. Okay, so from the console view, or from the CLI view, from the CLI view, I use, let me show you the different Okay, so we have a different folder installed at the moment because I've done so many actions, but I will just show you the different pods that we have right now. We have also the different the routes also. So let me go. What else I have to tell you? Your test links. It's okay. Okay, let's switch. Let's start off with switching. So at the moment, we have two clusters: the local, the production one, and the remote one. And the DR active says that of the application, it's only the production which is the active cluster. Okay, so this means that depending on the policies, application will only deploy on the production at the moment. Okay, so if you go to the, so we will now try to, let me go on the switcher to the production one, to the second cluster. And you'll see that there is no, okay, you can see that there is no pod or there is no application installed at the moment in the DR cluster at the moment, okay? Let me just go back here. I will execute now the switching, okay? To do that, it is very easy. I will just separate, remember, I will just separate this production policy because it is this production policy which governs the installation of the application in the productions. Okay, so I will separate this one. Okay, and once done that, when this one has been done, this means that I don't want to have, from the ACM part, I don't want to see anymore the applications in the production part. Okay, so you as a CMO, we are not anymore allowed to deploy application in the production part. But the application will still persist on the production. Okay, but from the ACM point of view, there is no, you don't have any more actions to do in the productions. Okay, so you will not be able anymore to enforce any actions in the production part. Okay, this is, if I say that here, okay, it is only the DR policy which is enforced at the moment. Okay, so I will now launch over a fallback. To do that, I have just to update the label, okay, to say that the DR site will be now the production site. So by doing so, automatically, the applications contained in this policy, okay, will start off the deployment of the application in your DR site. automatically. Okay, so let's check again the label. Now, as you can see, the production now is not anymore. It's not anymore the productions because the DR activer is false, and the secondary now is the activer cluster at the moment, as you can see. Okay. So let's go back on there. Now I will go to the production, to the DR now, and I will see. Great. As you can see, the application has been installed automatically, okay, by the DR policy, automatically, okay. This is how the marvelous of the ACM, okay. But this, what I'm doing right now, it is a call scenario. I have to do it manually, okay. It's manual, but for the company who don't have much more budget, the only action that you can do with ACM is just to do it manually. You can implement only the cold scenario, because if you want to have a hot scenario, this means that you want to let application run on the production and on the DR at the same time. So you should activate another advanced licensing. You should acquire an advanced licensing from Red Hat. Okay. In this way, we don't have to do all those stuff manually. But if you don't have much more budget, you just have you just purchase the standard ACM license. The only option that we have, you can implement the cold, okay, scenario, replication scenario. This is what I'm showing to you right now. But depending on your feedback and so on, I can also do another video about the hot scenario. Okay, so now the application has been switched to the DR part, okay? And let me go back to the web interface. If I do that, okay, you can see that now, at the moment, the application is still active at the moment, okay? As you can see here, still active on the production. But for the cold scenario, you are not allowed to let your application run on the production. If you buy the standard ACM license, you are not allowed to let application run on the production site. With the standard ACM license, Red Hat doesn't permit you to do this one. So if you switch to your DR site, you are obliged to suppress, okay, your application from your production. It is a mandatory, okay? If you don't have the advanced license, you are not allowed to let your workload continue to run on your production one, okay? So it is a must, it is an obligation. So in this way, let me continue. How the application is now run in here, I have to go back in my production site. Okay, let's go back to the production site and suppress my application. It is a mandatory action to do. You have no choice. Okay, if you buy only the standard license, no application workload should be allowed to run on your production site if you don't migrate. Okay, or if you are doing the cold scenario. It is a mandatory things. Okay. Okay. So this one has been done. If I'm doing that, at the moment, as you can see here, see if I refresh, of course, okay, application is gone. So now, of course, it's not anymore working. So I have to now go to the HAProxy and configure or update the configuration of HAProxy to be able to switch back flows to my DR. Okay, but even if I have this one, it is green. Okay, I have to do additional actions. Okay, so let me do that for you. But if you have the F5, you will not have to do all those gymnastics. Okay, but Anyway, it is a SSHK9. Let me go on my load balancer and I tell my mobile, hey, I will tell him that, hey, now all traffic have to be switched back to my DR site. Okay. Okay, as we go back here. I will just update the label. Okay, just update the label and say, yeah. Okay, don't have to do all of those stuff, but okay. Okay, I've done that. Let me just refresh it. I've updated the label and another additional action to do. I will put off the main site in maintenance. Okay, great. Now, if I'm coming here and I refresh, I should see my grid. Okay, I can see now my applications. So user can now access to the application from external, okay, from the virtual IP. So this is what I would like to show you in this video, how the ACM works with the cold scenario. We have also hot scenario, which means that application can run on the production and at the same time should run on the DR also. This is the hot scenario, but I'm not talking about that in this video. In this video, I have already talked about the cold scenario, okay, only. But in another video, maybe I will do another video about the hot scenario, where when you just from a policy, when you create a policy and you enforce the policy, you will be able to deploy application on the production part and also replicate the application on the DR part also. It will be definitely possible. It is a hot scenario. We have also another scenario which is a very warm scenario, but I will not talk about this one in this video. So guys, thank you very much. If this video gives you much more insight about the Red Hat ACM, okay, let me know in the comments. Give me, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video also. Thank you very much again, guys, and your feedbacks and your comment and your like help us give to have the power to continue this video and share with you our knowledge and our experiences that we are getting in the ground, because we are doing so many deployments with our customers. So based on our experiences with our customer, we are doing some others video, okay, like this one, to give you much more insight about how this technology is going on. So guys, thank you very much again, and take care, and bye from now.